Welcome to Let's Talk Cabling, the award-winning podcast where knowledge is power and the low voltage industry connects. Hosted by Chuck Bowser, RCDD, we're here to empower installers, designers, and industry pros with the tips, stories, and best practices you need to stay ahead. From copper to fiber, standards to innovation, this is the show that keeps you plugged into success. So grab your tools, turn up the volume, and let's talk cabling. Let's talk cabling, your source for low voltage expertise and connections.
Wednesday night, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That can only mean one thing: live after hours with your favorite RCDD. You know that's me, your favorite RCDD. Don't even try to pretend like I'm not. So tonight's show, I got something a little different. So tonight's show was actually a suggestion from somebody on one of my platforms. They asked me to do a show on how to evaluate a 1099 contractor. So that's what tonight's show is about. So I'm not doing any questions tonight, although put your questions in the chat boxes and I'll save them and I'll use them for the next show. What are you drinking? What are you drinking? Earl Grey tea. Earl Grey tea with honey and a essential oil throat lozenge. Yes. Taught a class today. Ooh, that's hot. Taught a class today, so I got a bit of a sore throat. It always happens when I teach a class full time like that. So, especially an all day class. Now let's also acronym challenge. I'm gonna do something different for the acronym challenge. You know, I did a meetup down in Tampa last week, and somebody said, Chuck, how come you never say anything about the Big C ICT field practice guidelines? I mean, those are great books. I for sure thought you would like them. I'm like, hello. They're in every single episode. I use these things all the time. So I'm going to do the acronym challenge from this today. I'm just going to pick one out of here. And then I want you to put in the chat box below, what do you think that acronym means? Alrighty, so let me find an acronym real quick. Here we go. Acronym. You ready? Let's see here. GFCI. GFCI. What does that acronym mean? Go ahead and put it in the chat box. Go ahead and put it in the comments, see if you know what that means. Chat box, open that up. Dr. Pashati's in the house with Dr. Pepper. Dr. Pepper, of course, always. We miss you. We kicked off the next study group, but it's kind of not the same without having you there, Shotzi. Again, drinking Earl Grey tea with honey and some throat lozenges. GFCI. All right, so TJ Pate's in the house. He says ground fault circuit interrupter. And 10,000 points to TJ. You got it, my friend. You got it. So again, like I said, tonight's show is all about 1099s. What is a 1099 contractor? And how do you vet one? So let's talk about, first off, what is a 1099 contractor? Wire for Excellence is in the house. Good to see you, my friend. So what is a 1099 independent contractor? They are not a full-time employee. They're not a full-time employee. They typically work on a project-by-project basis, or maybe even just fill in for hours somewhere else. A 1099 contractor does not receive health benefits, retirement benefits. They don't get paid holiday vacation time. The 1099 contractor is someone that they have to file their own taxes, right? So you'll give them a 1099 form. They got to pay their own taxes, and typically they got to provide their own tools, their own equipment, and their own transportation. But when it comes to the tools, though, it depends on the tool. So a 1099 contractor in our world is hand tools. Yeah, they're going to need punch tool and screwdrivers and stuff like that. But are they really going to be expected to carry a certifier or a hammer drill? It kind of depends. That's something you need to work out with the contractor ahead of time. So JG says, is it worth staying in the telecommunications world? Yes, it is. Absolutely. TJ already answered it for me. Yes. So, what are some of the benefits of hiring a 1099 contractor? It doesn't matter if you're a big company or a small company, hiring a 1099 contractor can help you quickly ramp up or ramp down on project needs. Let's say you're a small little shop and you only have like 5 technicians, and you all of a sudden win a project that's going to need, oh, spin this over, there we go. And you win a project that's going to need 20 employees. See, a lot of people don't realize, when they see an employee get hired, they're like, they don't realize the costs associated. There's recruiting costs. You got to bring the person on. There's onboarding, and then they're not really up to speed for a while. And you just start a project that you need to gear up now. That there's a lot of money with that. So there's some advantages to doing that. And hiring a 1099 contractor, another great thing too is you avoid those long-term financial commitments by hiring a full-time employee. So after that project winds down, you can easily say, okay, we're done. There's no workman's, no, well, not workman's comp. There's no unemployment, anything like that. Also, having a 1099 as a company, you save a good bit on overhead expenses as well too, because you don't have to pay for those benefits, like I said, the unemployment tax, the payroll taxes, and also you only really need to pay for the work that they completed, which could also help reduce labor costs. And we'll talk about whether you should pay hourly or you should pay piecework here in a little bit. This also gives you, using a 1099 also gives you the access to bring in somebody who's got high specialized skills. Like, let's say, for example, let's say that I win a project and I got to do some OPGW. OPGW. There's an acronym for you. Well, I might do a 1099 with TJ, who's in the TikTok feed, because he's got the experience with that. Right. So a lot of small companies, they might be really good with copper, but they may not be good with fiber. So you might do that, or you might have somebody who's doing AV, or somebody who's doing door locks or security. That might not be your forte, but you win a project that's got some of that in it, and instead of, you know, pushing your way through it and messing it up and making the customer mad, you might bring a 1099 contractor on board to do that. Now, a good thing is, uh, somebody said he took my. When did you take the class? That's cool. Somebody in the TikTok feed said they took my class. So you having the expertise, again, faster onboarding for niche projects, because you don't have to really teach them the ins and outs of how to fill out timesheets. You don't have to teach them how to do, all those other requirements. You can put them right to work, and it's less of a burden as well, because you have less paperwork than when you're hiring full time. Because there's a lot of paperwork you got to fill out for the federal government, and you avoid those issues with PTO. But here's the thing. Yes, they can be a great resource. They can be a great at it, but you got to be able to evaluate. You got to be able to vet that contractor, right? So I'm going to break this down into a couple of different sections. So the first section is going to be define your needs, right? The second section is going to be verify their credentials or experience. The third section is going to be assess their work quality and reputation. And then the fourth section is going to be legal and compliance. Okay. So I got 4 sections to get through in the next 23 minutes. So I already covered what is a 1099 contractor. So first you got to define your needs. What are the skill sets? What are the skill sets that you need that you don't have in-house? Right? You got to identify those. You're going to need somebody who has fiber optic skills. Is it going to be fiber optic skills for like cable TV, or fiber optic skills for, just regular backbone? Is it going to be installing AV equipment? Right? You got to think about what kind of skills they need, so that way when you reach out to people, because they're going to want to know what exactly is it that you need, and make sure that they're familiar with all of the industry standards, like maybe NICET certified for security, maybe BICSI for copper and fiber construction, maybe the ANSI standards. Obviously, you're going to want them familiar with the code. So once you know what kind of skill sets that person's going to need, what is the project timeline and what is the workload that you expect them to do? Because you're going to want to put this all down in a contract, so that way you put it there in writing, have them sign off, so there's no oh, my mind just pulled a blank on me there. No surprises, right? So say example, let's say that it's only going to take 2 weeks. Well, let them know this is going to be a 2 week gig. Or if it's a 6 month gig, let them know it's going to be a 6 month gig. Because that way, if they have other commitments, they can either say yes or no or move things around because then maybe they might want to work with you. Also, avoid overcommitting to a contract that's already stretched too thin. So if it's 1099, you know this contractor and you know that he's already doing another large project and you know they're a similar size company as you, and they said yes, they'll send you somebody. Um, One of the worst things we do as an industry is we win a project and then we'll say, okay, we'll be there Monday, and then we're not there Monday because the crew didn't finish the previous project on the Friday before, right? So watch out, make sure that you may want to ask them, how is their pipeline look? What kind of projects are they working on now? Do they have spare capacity to give you somebody or people, right? And when you bring them on, okay, are we going to be paying you hourly or are we going to be paying you piecework, right? So a lot of people shy away from piecework. Piecework's not that bad as long as you identify everything up front. Define those payment structures first, right? You don't want to do that afterwards. Say, okay, we're going to pay you hourly. Here's the rate. Um, what is who has the ability to say I need you to work overtime? What is the cost for overtime? There's all kinds of things you need to know for somebody that you're going to be bringing on, and then hopefully you're going to be picking somebody that has credentials. Credentials. We have this conversation with people all the time. You know, I don't think credentials aren't worth it. I've been in the industry for 20 something years. I didn't have a credential then. Why do I need one now? A credential does not necessarily mean you're better than somebody without a credential, but having a credential validates, it ensures that you have industry compliance, that you have industry knowledge, right? And there's gonna be higher certifications often indicate greater expertise. So if somebody's a Big C tech, they're going to have greater expertise, greater skills than somebody who's an installer copper. Somebody's got a CFOT will be better than somebody who has an A plus certification. Make sure that those certifications match with the skills and stuff that you are asking them to do, and make sure not only that they don't have to say let them say yeah I've got a certification. Make sure you say provide me a copy of that certification, verify that certification, and then you want to ask them, okay, because there's a lot of people like me. I was in the industry for 20 years before I got my Bixie technician certification. So I got 20 years as a Bixie tech, but I got over 40 years of experience in this industry. So ask them that, this potential 1099 candidate. How many years of experience do you have? What size projects have you worked on? What size timelines? What type of customers? Was it government? Was it commercial? Was it retail? Was it schools? There's a big difference between doing a project that's in a school as opposed to a project that's in a commercial office building. So if they've got the experience, but it's not in the right vertical, that might not be a good fit. Schools, you're going to have problems like access to closets and doors, working around uh, time frames that don't interact with, don't impact the kids' schedules and stuff like that. They also have inspectors that inspect their own stuff. There's a lot of stuff that you got to go through in schools that are additional layer that you don't have with commercial projects. So ask them if they've got the years of experience in the type of vertical that you're going to be placing them in. And don't be afraid to ask them, hey, do you have any pictures of the jobs that you've done before? Do you have any contacts? Do you have any references from customers that can call you up? Make sure you speak to them and say, look, I want your honest feedback. Don't be afraid to call up on references. And don't be afraid to look at job photos. A lot of people, I see this a lot of time on social media. People post pictures of their jobs all the time on social media, and they think it's great stuff. And I look at them and go, yeah, that's a C at best. Not even a B. It's a C. I don't tell them that, but I don't want to, harm people's feelings. But, have them show you pictures, job photos that they've done, especially in the vertical that you're looking for. Then what you might want to do is, now that you have references for customers, maybe ask for references from previous employers, because they may not have been a 1099 the whole entire time in communications. So find out who they worked for before, call them up, and do them. Ask them, those people you're talking to, ask them about their job performance. Ask them, how were they at jobs, at problem solving? Were they dependable? Did they show up every day? If they said they were going to do something, did they do that? There's a lot of things that you can do. And another thing that you can look at too when you're trying to vet that 1099 is go look at their social media platforms. Go look at their social media, especially LinkedIn. LinkedIn's a professional site, so go there and is their LinkedIn profile very basic? No banner. They just got one job and a date and maybe a picture that looked like they took on a job site, or is it well maintained? Because if they're taking the time to build out their there we go again, their LinkedIn profile, chances are they're going to do the same thing with their jobs, right? And look to see, did anybody recommend them? Does anybody give them testimonials? That can also help you reveal reputations and trends. And then what you might want to do, and you're probably going to have to pay for this, have them come in and assign them a small task to do, or small job, or trial run. Like if you got a really large job that's going to be 3 weeks, 4 weeks, a month, 2 months, 3 months, maybe bring them in as a 1099 on a job that's only a couple, 2-3 days, and let them run with that and see how they do with that. Assign them the tasks. Who was it said? Trust but verify. It's always, to me, I always see it credited to Colin Powell, but I don't know if he was the one that actually said it. Trust but verify. Trust but verify. So yeah, give them the project, let them run with it, go out and do the QA inspection, and see did they do it per the code? Did they do it per the standard? Did they do it per the way that your company likes to see the work done? See, not everybody views quality a little bit differently. What might be quality install for somebody may not be quality for your company. And then also think about when you gave them that small little test project to do, how did they handle the communications? Did they turn in their stuff daily, their paperwork daily? Did they get the project done on the deadline that they say they were going to get it done on? Did they fill out any other project paperwork that you asked them to do and do it in a timely manner? Was it legible? Was it readable? So again, it's better to figure this out on a small project before you put them out on a big project. Let's talk about some legal and some compliance considerations, right? So when you bring on somebody who's a 1099, make sure that they have the proper insurance. Make sure they have general liability. Make sure, if applicable, make sure they have their own workman's comp, because that's going to protect against potential legal issues and financial disputes if something goes wrong. Trust me, something goes wrong on every single project. Something always goes wrong. Even the best, well laid out, best planned project, something goes wrong, right? And don't just ask them that. Make sure they provide you proof of coverage before hiring. Verify that their business has been registered with the state. Make sure they're an LLC or sole proprietorship. Make sure they got all that paperwork in line with the state and the county that they're working with. Make sure they're performing as a legitimate business entity. That way you don't run into any problems on the backside. And then what you're going to want to do is you're going to create some type of scope of work, some type of payment terms, some type of liability cause. You would basically just create a request, not request for proposal, but you create a project plan for them and put it in writing and be as detailed as you can. When you be detailed like that, that's going to avoid mishaps. And so I'm dealing with one right now where somebody asked us to do something. We did it. They did the letter, what we said we were going to do it, and they were expecting something a little bit else that wasn't written in the contract, right? Make sure that you clearly outline the work that you expect them to do, the deadlines you expect them to meet, and if there's any penalties. Is there any penalties associated with that? The thing people don't really think about too is when you're trying to evaluate a 1099 contractor coming on board. 1099 contractor coming on board could potentially end up becoming a full-time employee. So keep that in mind. So with that in mind, how does this 1099 contractor fit within your company with the culture of your company and the professional of your company? Again, I've seen technicians that would literally show up for work and jeans that had stains on them and holes in them and just looking unprofessional. But if your company is uniforms and they expect that next layer up of professionalism, then maybe that person might not be a fit for you. Now, there's nothing wrong with wearing jeans especially on a construction site, right? If they're going to get tore up, but you still don't want to make sure you have jeans that maybe don't have holes in the knees and stuff like that. So you want to protect your knees too. Wear the right kind of shoes. Did the person when you're talking about how they fit in with the company, did they, again, communications? That's pro tip number 2 on my list. Communicate, communicate, communicate. Right? Did they communicate, you know, well when you gave them this job? Were they punctual and reliable, or were they consistently late, or did they do things that disrupt the project schedule? Right? Again, this is all stuff that you think about the 1099 contractor if you think about pulling them on board afterwards. And how do they handle conflict or job site change? Every job changes, and there's always conflict. We're construction workers. We fight over everything. How did they handle that? Did they raise their voice? Were they unprofessional, or did they handle it in a professional manner? Ask them. You can also ask them too when you're doing the evaluation process. Name me a situation where you had a problem. Tell me what the problem was and how you resolved that problem, and look for positive problem solving and adaptability skills. So it's almost, evaluating a 1099 contractor is a lot like evaluating a potential employee. There might be a little leeway as far as you may not have to be so stringent on some things because they're just a 1099. You're going to let them go after the end of the project. Or if you're hiring them with the thought of maybe potentially bringing them on board, maybe you might want to make sure that they check all those boxes, right? Let me ask you guys in the audience, have you ever worked with a 1099 contractor? Have you ever been a 1099 contractor? Has that ever helped you, right? So, Debt Cable Guy, hey Chuck, happy to be a part of the podcast live for the first time. Well, welcome to the show for the first time. Let me see, show on live stream. There we go. So, welcome to the show. John said he agrees. He agrees. So, 1099s could be a lot there. And Dr. Chauncey's in the house too. Let me see if I can't do his. Nope, I can't do it. All right, so there we go. So 1099s. So somebody said yes to both. Tyler Johnson's in the house on the TikTok feed. There are advantages and disadvantages. When you're 1099, you're your own boss. What you run into with is the legal definition of 1099 between employers and 1099 people. You can't, as a 1099, you run into problems with the IRS if you say, okay, no, they're 1099 contractor, but they got to be on this job site on Monday at 8 a.m. and work there till Friday at 5 p.m. Usually, as an independent contractor, you just say, here's the work, here's the deadline, here's the time frame, because otherwise the IRS is going to look at it. They're going to want payroll taxes. So there's some legal liabilities there that you got to watch out for with 1099 contractors. Just saying. As a 1099, you are your own boss. If you decide you want to take off a week because you want to go, scuba diving, you can do that. Absolutely. But you don't get paid. So you got to make sure that you save up that money. So Daniel is saying, I was a contractor in the UK for 8 years. Probably a different system there, but met some amazing techs and some also amazing, and also some cowboys. Oh, yeah, there you go. I get that. I truly get that as well. That makes me wonder, how different is it? How different is it to have it be a 1099 or a contractor in a different country? I never even thought about that, right? Shotzi says he was for a 1099 for a while, and then he learned a lot from every job, so it helped him a lot as well. So yeah, that's a good thing about being a 1099 is if it's not a good fit, there's not that same tie to the company. You can say, okay, we're done with this contract and go look for somebody else. That's a beautiful thing about being a 1099. Some people just like the warmth and the snuggliness and the feel goodness of being able to have a job and know that they're going to get paid 40 hours a week, regardless of what's going to happen. A lot of 1099 contractors don't have that. So you got to be a hustler. You got to be willing to go out above and beyond. You need to be able to, again, highlight your work skills, invest in yourself, make yourself more marketable, worth more money. So that way when those opportunities do come, you can take care of them. Right? So that's my thing about 1099s. Let me see what's some of our questions. Flipping back up here. Let me see here. I already answered that one. Is it worth staying in the telecommunications world? Yes, it is. Yes, it is. I've been in the telecommunications world for 40 plus years, and I tell you what, it's done well for me the whole entire time. The whole entire time. I will tell you this: it's like any other job. It's what you make out of it. If you invest in it, it will invest back to you as well. So it depends on, are you willing to make that investment? So, and let me check the chat box over here, see if we had any questions in the live chat stream. No questions there. All right, then we're just going to go ahead and wrap up this at 6:25, 5 minutes early, so I can go eat dinner and gear up for the RCD study group that I'm doing tonight in literally like 30 minutes, 25 minutes actually. So until next time, everybody, remember, knowledge is power.
Thanks for listening to Let's Talk Cabling, the award-winning podcast where knowledge is power and the low-voltage industry connects. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review. Got questions or ideas for the show? Chuck wants to hear from you. Stay connected, stay informed, and always aim for excellence. Until next time, keep those cables clean, your standards high, and your future bright. Let's talk cabling, empowering the industry one connection at a time.